was red as the future was waiting for you.
Stand by.
You hit the radio bullseye. And the home for everything Second Amendment. Concealed carry, the latest gear, reciprocity, legislation, the right to self-protection. And it shall not be infringed. This is Eye on the Target Radio with your hosts, Rob and Amanda.
So, hey folks, welcome to Eye on the Target Radio. I really hope you liked last week's show, and if you didn't notice, it was put in a can the week before just because Rob and I were going to be out of town and not available with limited, well, you were in the air. I was going to say with limited internet availability, but since he was in the air, it was extremely limited internet availability.
We were going camping and a pizza party with our friends.
Right. So we went to the fourth annual Florida Carry Speakers event. So put on by the Florida Carry folks, and let me tell you, it was a really interesting time. There were some great speakers. Everything was It was just amazing, and I want to know what time next year's is going to be, because let me tell you, we're going to be there because it was great. So hey, there's a whole series of folks that are saying hello to us because we are on OpsLens also. So on-demand TV. So not only can you hear us live on the radio, you can see us live on video by going to downloading an OpsLens app on your iPhone or your Android, or you can go to YouTube and find us. You can go to Facebook to find the OpsLens app, and we're just it's starting to be everywhere. But there you go. So you can see a video of Rob and I sitting in the studio because it's really exciting. It's really exciting to be. I realized I'm a face maker. We'll just say that when we do radio, I am a face maker, and
If you
so
watch close, you can catch me while I'm sleeping.
there is. He may not be kidding. He just may not be kidding. So let's talk a little bit about the Florida Carry event. So what did you get out of
Well,
it?
it was really neat. A lot of our friends came from all over the country to be there, and a lot of new people we had not met before.
New friends,
We had
right?
only talked to on Facebook or heard on someone else's radio show. So it was really, really interesting. It was a whole day of people getting up and talking about different things that affected them personally in their neighborhood, or that was actually affecting the country as a whole in the
What they're doing,
2A arena. And
how they're advocating, all of those pieces of putting together an advocacy
and it was
thing.
Florida, and the weather was really, really nice. And
Exactly. It was all that too. But the interesting part is that, I mean, people came from California, from Arizona, and then listeners came because they had heard that it was happening, and they came from all over the state, and some of them just happened to be traveling through and decided to swing by, if you will.
or
So
extend their vacation a day or two so they could stay.
right. So I think the quote from one was one guy, his wife said, "You need to go to this. This is your people." I'm like, okay, so are they singing the song of your people? I don't know. But yeah, this is your people. You need to go. Another guy came from Vermont, was somewhere in the state of Florida, and heard that Cheryl Todd from Arizona was going to be there. And so he drove his motorcycle over and said, "Okay, where do I stay? Because I'm staying for Cheryl Todd." That's how that is. Charlie Cook with Riding Shotgun from Charlie was down filming a variety of episodes, and it's worth going to Riding Shotgun with Charlie's YouTube page to see a video of everybody loading in and loading out of Charlie's car. So
It was. I think they call it clown car. It was actually pretty entertaining that they.
right, because when you started to look at it, it was like it doesn't identify who anybody is, but as you start to look,
It was
There-
funny, but when at the
Yeah.
beginning, you'll see some of them stop and they look or make a funny face or something, and then they open the door and get in. And some of them just run over and get in. And if we had known after seeing it how it was done, everyone should have stopped and made the face and done their stuff.
But-
but it was just you learn something. Next time we know better.
right, it was great. I have to say, my favorite part was Dr. John Adine from Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership, drgo.us. And Dr. John Adine got locked out. So he's pulling on the door handle. He's trying to get in the car. It ain't happening. Right? And so it was great. It was great fun. And the hospitality from the Florida Carry folks was phenomenal. And the fellowship and the mission. So let's not forget the 2A mission. And it is amazing watching people talk about what they're doing, how they're fighting
You know,
the fight,
the funny part-
what they're standing for.
The whole thing though was a couple days long, and they didn't have like any of the local press there, no local television, anything.
Well, they
for-
tried.
Right, but
The local press was like, "Yeah, no, not interested."
Right, it's just funny that they can't. They draw in a huge crowd on our way we think, but not enough to draw in the local media.
Yeah, no, I think you're right on that aspect, and I don't know what it would take to get.
Maybe we should
Media.
have lit a car on fire. That would have might have got them down there.
I think that then gives us the wrong type of media. I know all press is, no press is bad press, all press is good press. I don't know that really accounts for starting a car on fire. Just
Everybody
saying.
would remember the car except for the insurance company. So
I don't think they'll have a sense of humor about it at all. And, sometimes you hear these statements where it says, that doesn't help the Second Amendment community at all. I think this would be one of those cases that there is that. Well, one of the other interesting things about the whole weekend was the fact that the DC Project, and we always talk about the DC Project, because it's an amazing group. But the DC Project was going to be there. And so they made me in charge of making sure that we had hoodies for sale there. Do you know, it did not even come into my mind what the amount of mass was for 144 hoodies.
You know,
I just kind of visualized a box or two of them.
Somewhere I even was in a lineup where we were doing a wave with the hoodies on.
With a video of some sort, so
Yep.
you'll see that? Okay.
Say me and Gina and Shirley, and those had to be 10
June and
others.
some other I don't know. I want you to know that when you order 144 hoodies, it is stacked in boxes,
Box
not
of a
only
Whopper.
over your head, but as high up as you can reach over your head. That would be the stack of hoodies.
Lucky you weren't flying home with them.
Well, that was
got your luggage over 50 pounds, probably.
yeah, on in a couple cases there.
You could have wore them all. You look like a linebacker when you got on the air.
I can't bend my arms. Right. No, it was, but no, it was great. We sold a bunch of hoodies. So hoodies are now available on the website for dcproject.info. So dcproject.info. And we have both gray hoodies and teal hoodies for folks who want to support the work that the DC Project does. But the reason that we did that is because our video producer happened to be driving by, well, somewhere through a state that was somewhere close to the warehouse.
Within 3 states of the warehouse.
Something like that. We have the best friends. We'll just say we have the absolute best friends. And they're like, sure, we'll just take it and we'll stop there and we'll drop them off. So I sent a plethora of hoodies one direction. I sent an entire fashion show in another car in another direction. And I made it home without my suitcase being overweight again. So that was a huge accomplishment in the world of this Florida Carry event, because there for a while I had filled the rental car up to where I couldn't fit a third person in it. And it was big. It was a big rental car. So that was kind of where we were this past week, and it was amazing. The Florida Carry group, as I said, this was the 4th annual. The video producer says he's still saddle sore from the entire drive, because it was a couple days for him. I don't know what it is, 1,700 miles or some darn big number like that. And but no, it was, the Florida Carry event was phenomenal, and I'd like to see other states do something like it, which is invite Second Amendment people in and then invite people to come hear them speak, because there's nothing like a live event with speakers talking about what they're doing, how they're doing it, what they're running into, what they're trying to accomplish, and just overall what that mission is. And then there's nothing better than just sitting down, like with the Florida Carry thing, and having face-to-face conversations. What's going on? What are you doing? I mean, because I'm from Ohio, I don't get the battle that California has, not in the painful way that they get it. When we come back, we're going to talk about the history of the NAMBU.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3 and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Had a dirty day? Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps, made from fresh goat's milk and organic oils that detoxify, clean, and restore moisture to skin, will get you ready for your next adventure. These unique soaps are handcrafted in the Blue Ridge Mountains and shipped to anywhere in the U.S. Visit SillyBillyGoatFarm.com for their full line of Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps. That's SillyBillyGoatFarm.com.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
We are back. And hey, stop in and check out the website of our sponsor, Kahr Arms, kahr.com, KAHR.com, because with their help, we bring this show to you. But today we're going to talk about the history of the Nambu.
We're gonna dab around in it because
tell the story of why it came. Why did it come up as a topic today?
We were at the Florida Carry event, and one of the guys had just bought at an auction a Type 14 Nambu with a large trigger guard. It was a really nice Type 14, and it had matching holster and both two magazines, which usually you get one or the other. You don't never get all of it at the same time.
So this is quite a find, this package that he got.
Right, and the Nambus were not built like a modern pistol where parts off of this one fit that one. Almost every one of them were handmade. So if you have a broken one and you get parts, you more than likely have to make them fit because they don't work well together. There's multiple manufacturers of them. Early on, they made what they called a baby, a papa, and a grandpa.
Okay, so who is the they?
Well, the collectors, I believe, gave all of these names because
they didn't have names.
There was no names, and we didn't really get into Japanese guns until after everybody brought them home from the war.
Okay.
But the babies are called the baby because they're small, and the papas are bigger, and the grandpas are bigger yet. They're built by companies like electric and gas companies and stuff like this.
So in effect, they had a singular design that multiple people manufactured for the Japanese in the war to be able to give them guns.
They made them starting around World War I, actually, and then went on through, and they the government did not give the gun to the officers. Officers had to buy his own gun.
Okay.
That's why there was so many different styles of them.
Okay.
They had like we talked about, the baby, the grandpa, and the papa. They had a Type 14 with a small trigger guard and a large trigger guard, and they had a Type 94, which looks almost like a space gun. If you Google these, you'll get to see some pictures of it, or Wikipedia will show you some pictures of them. The Type 94 was famous.
No, wait. You got to stop and tell people, be careful when you're Googling them, because there is a spot in there that says a Nambu dating site.
I was wanting to show how to date. On the side of the pistol, it'll show you like 8 of 24 on there, and you have to subtract that from another number to get the year of manufacture of the pistol.
Okay.
And so I was trying to find out how to date a Nambu, and it just came up with dating sites all the time instead of showing me how to.
Yeah, so they were.
So it's almost like
careful.
I don't know what it was. 1935 or something is the number. So you have to like take this A of 24 from 35 or whatever, and it tells you that your gun was made and that date or whatever. But you can find it if you look for it. But be aware there's going to be some other different things that pop up.
Use somebody else's phone. I'm just going to say.
The Type 94s had an external sear on them, and they said that you could just, by squeezing the outside of the pistol, you could make it go off with that. And so they said that a lot of the Japanese, when they were handing them over, they would squeeze that sear and shoot the GI that they were handing the pistol over to.
Okay.
So be aware that these Type 94s have this external sear, and you could easily shoot yourself or someone else with it.
So the Type 94 is the one that
looks
says,
like a space gun,
and that they say you can shoot yourself with it without being aware of what's going on, simply because it's set up
right, the
that way.
trigger can be away from you and the safety on, and you can still squeeze the sear and make it fire. So.
Okay.
And then they made a Type 26 revolver that looked a lot like a Smith & Wesson revolver, and it shoots a 9mm Nambu round. So these are all real interesting pieces. Most of the auto pistols shoot an 8mm Nambu bullet, which is somewhat underpowered by our standards. It shoots a 320 diameter bullet, about 90 grains. They only went about 1,000 foot a second, so they were like a very weak 9mm Luger round instead of a.
Now, the interesting thing is that there were multiple people who were knowledgeable about guns around the campfire at the Florida Carry event, and the guy who owns this Nambu got multiple pieces of information from people, and most of them were like, "Don't shoot it! Don't shoot it! Don't do."
Well, the big problem is if you break a part on it,
you can't
isn't
fix
like
it.
You just go to Nambu.com and get parts for the thing. And if you do, they're not going to fit 100%. You're going to have to make them fit. So by not shooting it, then you don't break it, or if it is broken, you don't know that it's broken, and so you're I don't know what blissfully ignorant
to it. But on the other hand, since you own a Nambu and everybody else doesn't, and you can get bullets for it, and you can fire it once or twice, so you can say I fired it. And when you go to sell it, you have bullets that go with it.
When it was built to shoot, it wasn't like it was a one-time deal. It was built to be shot and used and stuff. So if your Nambu is in good shape, it's worth scrounging up a couple bullets and shooting. And the bullets are available. Usually Graf & Sons online has them. Some of the other manufacturers will have them. And you can also buy the dies and everything to make your own if you so choose.
Right, but then you're so far committed that it's not like you're going to just shoot one or two.
We're going to shoot a lot.
We're shooting a lot if we're buying the dies and building the bullets. There is that. I just think that having a line of guns that the collectors have named Baby and Papa and Grandpa is just
I looked
adorably
at a Grandpa
cute.
one time, and it was $6,000, and it did not have a magazine.
Okay. So yeah. Do you have any idea what this guy paid for it? Did he say?
He said he paid $1,200 at the auction for this.
Wow.
And I think he got a good price on that because, like I say, you never get two matching mags, the serial number to the gun. You don't get the holster that goes with it and everything all in that same kind of price range. And his gun was really nice. It looked like it was an early war gun that they had actually used some quality workmanship on.
Interesting.
The later stuff looked more like it was blacksmithed out of an old train.
Everything's we're making it fast and we're handing it over. There is that. So hey, when we come back, folks, we are going to have we're going to continue to talk the history trends because we're going to have Ashley Helbinski. I think that's how you say her name. Well, I think so. She's told me multiple times, and every time my head changes her name to a point right there. And then Danny Michael. So they are both are affiliated with the Cody Firearms Museum, and they are now involved in the museum's podcast, History Unloaded. So when we come back, we're going to be talking to them. We're going to be talking historical guns. We're going to talk about additional podcasts that you guys can tune into. And man, these guys are some pretty smart people. So stay tuned.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Had a dirty day? Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps, made from fresh goat's milk and organic oils that detoxify, clean, and restore moisture to skin, will get you ready for your next adventure. These unique soaps are handcrafted in the Blue Ridge Mountains and shipped to anywhere in the U.S. Visit SillyBillyGoatFarm.com for their full line of Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps. That's SillyBillyGoatFarm.com. Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Seffacool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
Hi, this is Paul Lathrop from the Polite Society Podcast. I wanted to let you know that the show you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. You can check out all the shows on the network by going to selfdefenseradio.net or tune in for more on Self-Defense Mondays on Karma Radio, KRMAradio.com.
This is Dan Perkins with your Songs and Stories for Soldiers, Veterans Tip of the Day. If you're a veteran with a disability, are you interested in a program that could give you a free home? Homes for Our Troops is a privately funded 501c3 nonprofit organization that builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post-9/11 veterans to enable them to rebuild their lives. These homes restore some of the freedom and independence our veterans sacrificed while defending our country and enable them to focus on their family and recovery. Since its inception in 2004, nearly 90 cents of every dollar has gone directly to the program to serve veterans. HFOT builds these homes where the veterans choose to live and continues its relationship with the veterans after the home delivery to assist them in rebuilding their lives. For more information, go to their website, www.hfotusa.org, and see if you can qualify for the home of your dreams. This has been your Songs and Stories for Soldiers, Veterans Tip of the Day.
Okay, folks, we are back, and with us, we have two guests. So we're going to figure out how we can navigate through this whole thing. So we have with us on the phone Ashley, and I think it's Holbinski. I'm not so good at your name. I know you've told me a couple times, and every time I do something bad to it. But she is one of the foremost authorities of firearms history, technology, and culture in the United States. She began her career at the Smithsonian Institution, where she simultaneously earned a master's in American history with an emphasis on firearms and militaria from the University of Delaware. Now, this is the amazing part. By 25 years old, she was running one of the largest firearms museums in the United States. So she was the curator in charge of the Cody Firearms Museum. She was also the project director of the museum's multi-million-dollar renovation that opened in 2019. So folks, you need to see that. I have not gotten there. My friends have all been there. They have said it's amazing. She currently consults in arms and ammunition history for museums, lawyers, and other commercial and not-for-profit institutions. Also on the phone with us is Danny Michael, who is the current curator of the Cody Firearms Museum. And they are both the co-hosts of the museum's podcast, History Unloaded. So Danny received his Bachelor of Arts in his BA in history in Cedarville University and his master's, the University of Louisville, specializing in public and military history. And I love this line. And in addition to his work at the museum, he shoots 3-gun very slowly. If you've not seen 3-gun happen, there are some people who scamper and some people who run. So hey folks, thanks for joining us. You guys are both so amazing. I really appreciate you coming on to Eye on the Target Radio.
Oh, thank you. Danny really undersold himself though, because he may shoot it slowly, but that's usually because he's shooting like an M1 Garand.
I took an M1 Garand to the Magpul, Wyoming governor's match last year, and I got some looks.
I could see where or why. I took Rob and to shoot USPSA, and he's not a fast runner, so he created his own game where he only shot them in the A zone on the face. And so his whole game was completely different than everybody else's game that was playing, but he typically got all A's in his A zones. So Ashley, the last time we talked was at SHOT Show before they shut us all down. You came onto the show, and we actually recorded sitting in a hotel room where we're all piled like kittens in a box. And I think that's the last time any of us were together. It's been so crazy.
I think so.
But, yeah. So
I think
why don't you guys tell us a little bit about your podcast, History Unloaded? Kind of where is it? What's going on with it? Where did you guys start, and where can people find it?
Yeah, so I'll let you take it away, because you kind of created it, came up with the idea, and then just like wrangled me into it.
Yeah, I think that's an accurate way to describe it. Is I wanted to do a podcast for the museum for a while. We had done like Facebook Live videos before, and that had been pretty successful for us. But posting to Facebook and Instagram, our social channels, was sometimes inconsistent, and podcasts are extremely popular and a platform we thought we should be on. So I was like, well, there's plenty of cool stuff to talk about in the museum. And I wanted to record, and I told Ashley about this like super late notice. And so she agreed to come in. So it wasn't just me talking by myself. And yeah, we talk about firearms history. We talk about, history of firearms law, the museum, what it's like to be in the museum field, all sorts of stuff. And it's a lot of fun. We try and have fun with it and let our personalities come out. As we said on the last one, it is not a professional podcast. It's just us chatting about firearms history, but it's a lot of fun to do, and listeners seem to enjoy it. And we're on pretty much all the major podcast platforms if people want to go check us out.
Okay, so it's called History Unloaded.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Ashley, go ahead.
As a review perfectly. I think it was Danny, it was one of your Redditors, who was like, what's the podcast like? Well, it's Danny and Ashley start on one historical topic and go off on many tangents in the best way possible.
I think listeners like that, though, because they get your personalities, and it becomes a conversation where nimble minds just kind of move around.
Well, and you can see in some of our historical stuff that it's easy to all of a sudden go off on a spider web to a completely different manufacturer time zone from one topic to the next.
Indeed.
Yeah, it really is. It's one of those things where, some of our episodes, it's something about, Winchester history, and all of a sudden we're talking about just how many designers did have some involvement with building or making sewing machines along their career. So there's lots of fun tangents to go on.
Yeah, isn't it funny how they're... isn't it funny how you'll see the same names tied in here and there and everywhere, where you can see their careers as they move through the firearms history?
Well, I think it's interesting because, as Danny and I always joke. I mean, we like to talk about the personal lives of the firearms designers as much as possible, and really kind of get into who they were as people. And as a result, we end up maybe taking pot shots at some really famous designers that people worship, like John Moses Browning.
I could see why. It was like one of the most amazing things to me was the whole Sturm Ruger story, where Sturm wrote children's books, right? And it was just, to me, that was like, can you imagine going from writing kids' books to manufacturing guns? As those two seem like a logical shift.
Well,
especially because he's backing up Ruger, who's starting in his garage.
Right. Yeah. I think that's interesting. So Rob has a question that I'm not sure you can't answer right off the bat, but let's assume you can't. How would he go about getting an answer? Because what he's looking for is the serial number for Annie Oakley's 1891 Marlin. So how would someone, just anyone, if it weren't Rob, go about researching or finding that kind of information?
Ashley, you want to take this one?
Okay, I was going to let you do it. There's a lot of different ways to do that. So you're looking for a specific serial number of an Annie Oakley gun. Danny, why don't I take the museum route and you could take the records route? Does that work?
Sure. That works.
Okay. So, sometimes you can honestly just Google search it. I tell everybody start with Google, please, because that would save everybody a lot of time. It's amazing what you can find online. But if you're looking for a specific model, the model, it belongs to her, and you can't find anything in any of the kind of Annie Oakley books or, any of the secondary research that you can do leading up to talking to someone. I always recommend trying to do that first because you may stumble across something. But if you can't find what you're looking for, definitely contact an organization like the Cody Firearms Museum, which is a part of a larger organization, and one of the museums under that organization is the Buffalo Bill Museum. And so if you, can do some research on their website, if you can contact, one of the employees directly, they can usually give you some guidance on what guns she did own, what they have in the museum, if there's anything out there. So that's kind of the roundabout way of doing it. And then The Cody Firearms Museum also has records, which I'll let Danny talk about in a second. So there's a different way you can go about it, which is a little bit more difficult, and you have to look at lots of files on computers.
Yeah, so the CFM has factory records for a number of different manufacturers, including Winchester, Marlin, LC Smith, Ithaca, and now Savage. And what those are production ledgers, essentially. They take a little bit different shape depending on the manufacturer, but those are serial number records of what those individual manufacturers were making. So I think we're closing in on 15 million individual serial number records. And so if you were looking for guns owned by Annie Oakley, for instance, we could, although we don't normally do it this way, but we could comb through those, piece by piece. Of course, there's a research fee associated with us doing it. Since Annie Oakley is a pretty popular person, we've identified most of the records that talk about her. Although when we got the Ithaca records in, we came across a couple new ones since we hadn't had a chance to look at those before. So some of her guns are pretty well known and documented, like she owned this Winchester, she owned this Marlin, or this Ithaca. We have a couple in the museum. We have a Winchester 92 that belonged to her. And if you want to look up a specific one, we can actually go back to some of the original production records.
Okay, I mean that to me is pretty amazing. And since most of the records talk about if they ship something directly to somebody, right? Hey, we're going to head right to a hard stop commercial break. When we come back, let's continue on with this conversation, and then we'll talk about some of the most unique guns that you guys have seen and handled.
Honest citizens like you protect themselves every day. We talk about it every week on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Were these gun owners lucky, or did they have a plan? How should we defend the people we love? We discuss recent examples on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Put us in your pocket.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to davenportguns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Seppacool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. realizefac.com.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Had a dirty day? Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps, made from fresh goat's milk and organic oils that detoxify, clean, and restore moisture to skin, will get you ready for your next adventure. These unique soaps are handcrafted in the Blue Ridge Mountains and shipped to anywhere in the U.S. Visit SillyBillyGoatFarm.com for their full line of Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps. That's SillyBillyGoatFarm.com.
Okay, so we are back, and we are back with, well, not only podcasters from History Unloaded, and you're going to want to tune in and you're going to want to catch them because I have heard them in action. Kind of, they tumble around topics like kittens in a box, but they're so darn knowledgeable about the whole history of guns and people and where it all came in and how it all wove together, that it's just a really interesting conversation. So we've got Ashley Hibinski and Danny Michael on the show with us today talking about guns and history and their show History Unloaded. So for you two, we'll start with Ashley. What in your mind is the most interesting gun that you've had an opportunity to kind of handle or research or look into?
Oh, gosh, that's always such a hard question, and I feel like I'm a liar because I just think I make up something different every single time. So if you listen to me in interviews, you're like, that is not what you said last time. But let's see. One of the most interesting ones has, I come back to this one a lot. It's actually this, like, really old dog lock. Dog lock's an early version of what becomes the true flintlock, and it's actually got an external safety catch on it. So when you pull the cocking mechanism back, it actually hooks onto this lock called a dog, and it holds the what people would call a hammer now mechanism backwards. And that was around the 1600s. And so there's this gun in our collection, which is a 4-barrel dog lock. And the way that it operates is you've got like almost these half barrels that are in a cross configuration, and you've got this piece of metal where you disengage it below the trigger and you like wind it forward, and it allows those barrels to spin. And while those barrels are spinning into place to fire, you manually do it. The end of the barrel moves away and then comes back and gas seals to the rotating piece. And then you lock it all back up, you release the safety on it, and you fire the gun. You've got a repeater, a kind of breech loader, a gas-sealed gun, really early on in the 1600s, and it belonged to the Earl of Meath.
Huh. Interesting. That is absolutely.
That was loaded superimposed, or it was just multiple barrels?
It was multiple barrels. So it was almost like you had a barrel, like, lit in half, and you had 4 half barrels that rotate and seal up to the like main firing chamber. So
because
like,
I've seen
I've
seen some where they maybe load like 6 loads in each barrel, and you move the lock back in place to shoot the next row of bullets behind it.
No, this is kind of like if you're familiar with, I think it's the Porter turret. I always get the Porter and the Cochrane turret mixed up. But it's kind of like with those, you have a cylinder that sits vertically and rotates the chambers. Instead of rotating chambers into the line of fire, you're rotating an actual part of the barrel.
Interesting. Absolutely interesting. I'm always amazed by, just the people who manufactured guns and how early they did it. Sort of like, who was the first guy who built an engine lathe to be able to use an engine lathe to build the next engine lathe? That kind of how's the history and how did it all run together is always a thing with me. So Danny, how about you?
For me, it's I always go back to a gun we call it the Burton machine rifle. It's a select fire rifle. It fires a proprietary cartridge called 345 Burton that's based on the 351 Winchester self-loader, if any of your listeners know those guns. And it was developed at Winchester in maybe 1916, 17, or 18. We're not really sure. It's called the Burton machine rifle because it's attributed to a Winchester engineer named Frank Burton, but we're not even sure that he did it 100% because there's almost no primary documentation about this gun. It's a mystery gun it's ahead of its time. It's weird looking. And there's only one of them, and there's nothing to back it up. But it's a cool gun.
Isn't that one of those the life's mysteries?
It's funny they built it, but nobody bothered to write anything about it while they were building it. So now they have it, but all the history's long gone with it.
Well, at that point, he was an engineer, not trying to document anything. It either worked or it didn't work.
Right. It's just like tidbit of firearms history, and unless the gun itself physically existed, which it does, and we have it, it would be lost to history because there's virtually no mentions of it outside of it is a thing that exists.
Yeah, it always amazes me, the crossover between gun historians and like engineers and tool and die makers and the machinists and the guys who are actually just doing the work. Rob and I were raised by a Ruger collector who spent his entire life tracking down the history of Ruger's, the 357, the first centerfire, and every manufacturing variation that Ruger made. When they made it, what serial number breaks, all of those kinds of things. And he would find something and it was like an aha moment, and he's like, look, they changed sites. They changed site manufacturers. Isn't that exciting? And we're like, sure it is. So how long have you guys been doing History Unloaded?
Oh gosh. Has it been like, I don't even know anymore. I left the museum. Well, I'm still involved with the museum, but I stepped back as curator last year, and we've been doing it for a year before that.
Yeah, Danny? I think our first episodes were late 2018. No, late 2019. Excuse me. Late 2019, and we did and then yeah, it's been running since that.
Okay, and you do it on a weekly basis. You do. So what's the basis? What's the format? What's the repeat?
So we try to maintain a schedule. We used to do it in seasons, and then I don't know, Danny, one day maybe we were drinking whiskey. Danny's like, let's do it every week. So we've been doing it pretty much every week. We have our producer is Camila Kudelska, who is a Wyoming Public Media, which is the Wyoming version of NPR. She's a journalist for them, and so she has to listen to us and edit us and make us sound relatively competent. And so she usually uploads it to Podbean for Thursday afternoon, and we usually tout it for Friday morning. And then we do it every week unless our schedules are just so crazy we can't all get together. And right now we're in 3 different states because Camila's back east, and so we're in 3 states and 3 time zones. So it gets a little questionable.
I can imagine. So Danny, what do you want people to know about the museum, about the show?
Well, first of all, if you haven't been to the Cody Firearms Museum, make a trip. We're planning to have a busy visitor season this summer, and we're excited that it sounds like a lot of people are going to be able to travel and come see us. So come to the museum and see us. And listen to the show and understand that it's trying to add some of the personal stories back into firearms history, and that's true for both the show and the museum. I think we get caught up sometimes in all the technical details about, and they're interesting. They're interesting for good reason, and they're important to study. But we sometimes lose that personal aspect to the story. It's both a firearms history, but it's also a history of people and the way that these things were made and used, and so we want both the museum and the show to be about that and bringing those stories forward. So I guess that would be my big takeaway for both.
Okay, interesting. Okay, Ashley, we're down to about 30 seconds. What do you want to say? How do you want to end the show?
I think Danny did a really good job. I mean, we're happy to be working on it together. We love mixing it up with different topics, so check us out.
Okay, so folks, Ashley and Danny, History Unloaded. You need to tune in. You need to check it out, and it's really amazing. One of the things that I realized is that firearms podcasts are kicking up to where they are in many of them are in the top 10% of all podcasts produced and listened to. So you guys, the gun people, the history buffs, the self-defense people, the Second Amendment people, you are all very listening to the podcast.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3 and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Shotgun with Charlie.
Your Second Amendment rights are under attack like no other time in history, and the Second Amendment Foundation needs you to take action now. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have pledged to make taking away your Second Amendment rights a top priority through gun bans, gun confiscation, government regulations, and even a gun tax. They have aligned themselves with anti-gun activists like billionaire Michael Bloomberg and appoint radicals like Beto O'Rourke as the anti-gun czar. The fight begins now with your text of Protect 2A to 474747. Text Protect 2A to 474747 to pledge your support and become a Second Amendment first responder. Your right to own a gun and protect your family are on the line. Text PROTECT2A to 474747 and join the fight to protect your Second Amendment rights. Text PROTECT2A to 474747 to pledge your support and become a Second Amendment first responder.
Shooter standby.
You hit the radio bullseye. And the home for everything Second Amendment, concealed carry, the latest gear, reciprocity, legislation, the right to self-protection, and it shall not be infringed. This is Eye on the Target Radio with your hosts, Rob and Amanda.
Okay, so we are back. And if you were watching versus listening, Riding Shotgun with Charlie, I'm telling you, the clip that Riding Shotgun that Charlie Cook put together from the Florida Carry event, where all of his friends tried to get in his tiny little clown car. We ran it during the commercial break, and it is hysterical watching everybody try to get in, try to get out, and you can see all their personalities. It is just an amazing, amazing thing. I was there when they were filming it, and the one, they opened the door and Amy kind of just dived in on her belly. It's like I wouldn't want to try that myself. Yeah, I don't think. Well, once she crawls in the back and closes the door and then moves to the car, it's like I'd be in there for an hour trying to get turned back around to where I could move again. Yeah, because she goes in the back hatch and out the passenger door. So yeah, it's just fun. It's just good, clean gun people fun. So okay, so let's carry on with our show. Carry on with the show. So here's a question: can you be married to a felon and still have a concealed carry license?
Depends on what neighborhood you live in.
Okay.
Well, some states are much more looser than others. I know New Jersey says no, you can't do it.
And Ohio says that they will not restrict one person's ability to own a gun because someone else cannot own a gun.
You get into a lot of gray area here, too. And I mean, I've seen people where they go into the gun shop together, and everybody knows, in most cases, the wife controls the money. The husband says, oh, I'd like to have one of those. Pay the man, Junior. And so that gets to be a straw purchase.
Right, but is it a straw purchase or is it a joint checking account? Right, that would be. It really is. There's a question there. So
I mean, I've also seen where the husband says they've made a decision. We're going to buy this nice Model 19 Smith & Wesson, and as soon as he goes out the door to babysit the kids because the kids are going crazy, she buys this really nice nickel-plated just because it's pretty.
Okay. So his decision didn't really stand.
So we'll probably be back next week to get the
other one but yeah, it's really kind of it really is an interesting question that the answer is depends, because depending on your state, depending on your attorney general, depending on your municipality. I mean, I know that at one point I had heard that no, a felon cannot live in a house where a gun resides.
Well, some of this stuff I think is they call it a secondary offense. So if you get caught with the gun doing something else, and then they realize that your husband is a felon, now they add that on there. When you're buying this thing, the NICS background check doesn't come up with the fact that
it doesn't ask
who your friends and relatives are and how they're.
Are you cohabitating with someone who cannot own a gun? Because they're talking really about you and your rights, not about someone else's.
Next week's form. I mean, now that you said it, it's all your fault.
Don't say it out loud. Don't say it out loud. I said it. She said it. Don't. She's dead. She said it. Don't say it. But no, so there's pieces to all of this, and it really.
Well, it's funny we talk about like some of the states, like Teresa Einacker from New Jersey and Charlie Cook from Massachusetts, and that, and some of the laws that they have are so bizarre by Ohio standards, and California even has different standards, and we're like, well, why do they put up with that? Why don't they move? But you can see that this is all coming to everybody. I mean,
right.
as we listen to the federal government lately, they're shooting their mouth off about what they're going to do to us. Whether they can or can't, I don't know. I know that when he keeps saying executive order, that's not going to do it.
And we don't want them to move because we want them to stand and fight. We want them to stand their ground, because if they move, it just moves. It just shifts the line closer. It just makes the group smaller and stacks us up higher. Right. Right.
So it's good that they're fighting. If you can help them, join their little club or something, send them some money, because they need the money to keep the fight going.
So any of the extreme liberal states that are really fighting the Second Amendment fight, every one of those state organizations could use your membership, could use your dues, could use your voting power. Because when they say that they are 30,000 members strong or 40,000 members strong,
they don't double check to see which state they're all from. They just say they're 30 or 40,000 members, and
that matters. It has
it makes a difference when the guy's got to be voted back in the office. So
and it has a lot of heft. So as you're talking a little bit about that, let's talk a little bit about this. You had started in our early segment about the ATF has lost control. And part of the reason they've lost control is that they don't force the gun laws to be enforced the way that they're written. So they kind of pick and choose as to whether a gun law is enforced. And the ATF, in a lot of cases, we have seen where they're like, oh, that's okay. I mean, because think about it this way. Here's the 4473 form, and you fill it out, and then they do a background check, and they either say that you can have a gun, they say you can't have a gun, or they say you're on a delay. And that delay waits for, 5 business days?
Yeah, I think different states have different rules, but Ohio, it's five business days.
Okay, so there's a delay. And if at the end of the delay you don't get a call as a release or a denial, you're allowed to sell the gun. And so I know that at one point I was involved with a gun shop. We sold a gun. They called 3 weeks later. The ATF called 3 weeks later and said, "Did you sell this gun? He's not allowed to have it." Yes, I did. What do you want us to do now? And they were like, "We'll go get it." Well, later we hear that they never did. They didn't do anything. So he's not allowed to have the gun. It took them weeks and weeks to figure that out instead of their instant background check or instead of the 5 days that they really had. And then they didn't do anything.
I had one time I had sold a gun to a guy I knew, and the ATF does a background check on this gun. They call you in so many days. They say, "Okay, you have so much time to respond, and we want to know where this gun went to." So I sent them the information, and then a couple months later, I had talked to the guy, and I asked him about it. He's like, "Oh, well, he sold that gun at a gun show," and I'm like, "Well, did they ever contact you about it?" No one ever contacted him. So they asked me, but they never bothered to check any further.
They never went any further than that. So that's the thing. So one of the statements that just came over from the Ops Lens video is that Ohio needs to declare all federal gun laws unconstitutional. They are talking about that. House Bill 62, which is under debate, under discussion, April 14th, is going to be the Second Amendment sanctuary bill from the state of Ohio, or of the state of Ohio, and it was written, sponsored by Wojciech and Grindel. That's who it was. I was like, the first one I was trying to remember who it was, but Wojciech and Grindel were the writers, originators of the bill, and it is going in for testimony. So Ohio's headed there. But let's talk a little bit more. We had another circumstance where the ATF failed to do something. And that was when a gun is shipped from, like, if you buy a gun on the internet, people lose their minds about the fact that you can buy a gun on the internet. But they don't realize that when you buy that gun on the internet, it has to be shipped across state lines to an FFL, and you have to come in, do the paperwork to pick that gun up. It doesn't just go to your house. It's not like Amazon. The Amazon van shows up and voila, you got a gun and ammunition. That's not how it works.
Let's just say in most cases.
In most cases. So we have knowledge of where the gun shop was not open on a specific day.
Well, this guy bought a lot of guns and had them shipped in. He knows what the schedule was, and so he ordered a gun and had them ship it on a certain day so that it would get there when the gun shop was closed. He came and sat in the parking lot all day till the delivery came. He signed for it with his own name even, and then he took it and left. And had it not been that the mail person left me one of those cards that says that we have a package at the post office, I would have never known it. So I went to pick it up, and there's like, oh, it had been picked up, and they showed me the signature. So then when I called the ATF about it, it took me a long time to get somebody to even care. And on the outcome, they finally got a hold of the guy and made him bring it back in, log it into the book, and then sign it out the right way. But that was the only thing that was done to it.
There wasn't even, it wasn't even a spank your hand. It wasn't. So, hey, when we come back, we got more.
Honest citizens like you protect themselves every day. We talk about it every week on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Were these gun owners lucky, or did they have a plan? How should we defend the people we love? We discuss recent examples on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Put us in your pocket.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to DavenportGuns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit ProjectChildSafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Hi, this is Paul Lathrop from the Polite Society Podcast. I wanted to let you know that the show you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. You can check out all the shows on the network by going to selfdefenseradio.net or tune in for more on Self-Defense Mondays on Karma Radio, KRMAradio.com.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Seppacool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Had a dirty day? Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps, made from fresh goat's milk and organic oils that detoxify, clean, and restore moisture to skin, will get you ready for your next adventure. These unique soaps are handcrafted in the Blue Ridge Mountains and shipped to anywhere in the U.S. Visit SillyBillyGoatFarm.com for their full line of Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps. That's SillyBillyGoatFarm.com.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, folks, we are back, and we're going to continue on with this conversation about the ATF and how the ATF has lost control. Have you heard the Hunter Biden story of Hunter Biden buying a gun? Because that is the...
We haven't even heard what happened to his laptop all the way, so...
No, there is that. But let's talk. Let's get on the... We're not a laptop show, we're a gun show, so let's talk about the gun. Let's talk about this. So in 2018, Hunter Biden went to a gun shop and he bought a gun. And when he bought the gun, he filled out the 4473 form and pretty much, well, he lied on it because he said, I am not a habitual user of drugs and, you know, whatever that official long-term statement is. So he had done that. Then the interesting part is the FBI was monitoring Hunter Biden's access and what he was doing. So they got somewhat involved in things. The gun comes home. Hunter Biden is now at that point living with his brother's wife, and she doesn't want him to have a gun. So this is where it gets crazy. She takes the gun and she wraps it in a garbage bag and then she sticks it in the trash at this high-end grocery store. Okay. So she throws it away. So now he decides or realizes that it's missing. So he asks her, where'd the gun go? And she says, well, I threw it away. So he sends her to dumpster dive. And so she goes to the dumpster, and this is where it gets even crazier. She goes to the dumpster, she goes to the trash, and it's not there. So then she goes to the management of the grocery store, and in effect, I'm paraphrasing, she says, hey, I stored my gun in your trash can, and now it's missing, and I'd like to report that it's gone. Right? Okay. So this is, just cause. Well, the grocery store used their video surveillance footage to identify a guy who habitually dumpster dives, found it, and carried it away. So that is all going on.
Habitually, or is this just a hobby that he has?
I don't know. Maybe it's his lifestyle. I don't know. Is it a habit? Is it a lifestyle? Is it, because I habitually eat. So
it's funny though that she. I was just storing my gun in your trash can, and they got better security on the trash can than they do in their house.
So all of that is happening, right? Then, so now the FBI has been watching and monitoring some of this. The Secret Service gets involved in it. The ATF at one point now gets involved because the Secret Service. So one, the FBI is watching Hunter Biden. The Secret Service is monitoring Joe Biden because he's a former vice president who was at that point running for office. So he's got a Secret Service detail. So the Secret Service agents reportedly approached the gun shop and wanted to take the paperwork involved in the sale. The gun shop owner wouldn't let him have it because they have a responsibility for what they have to do and the records that they have to keep. So then the gun shop owner gave it to the ATF. So now all of a sudden there is no deniable. Too
many people start knowing about it.
They can't deny it. They cannot. The ATF cannot deny it. So if the ATF does not do anything to Hunter Biden, and the fact that he lied on the form, and it's punishable by what, $250,000 fine?
$250,000 and 10 years in jail.
So. Okay, well, so all of this is going on. So just pay attention to the story. So it has been going on and percolating since 2018.
It also makes him a felon, but I think that he already was there before he got to the
Well, I think I honestly believe since he was dishonorably discharged from the military, I think that is a precluding offense that won't allow you to have a gun either, isn't it? So I think that is another piece of it. It's right up there because I think that happened in the as a result after the murder of John F. Kennedy.
So he legally was able to go buy this gun, even though all the paperwork was wrong and he lied and nobody cared and
right. So it's just a game. It's just a joke. It's just
more. Let's add some more stuff to this so we can.
So many levels of it, but that's a story. That's a story to keep an eye on because again, it's what's good for the goose is good for the gander, and I'm hoping that his goose is cooked, just because they cannot punish us for gun laws that they put into place, and they want more gun laws, more and more gun laws, and then they're like, oh, never mind, you're rich, you're famous, China gives you money, so none of that matters. That is insane. But let's move on to additional new insane stories. I came upon a story that was a Los Angeles grandmother was stabbed to death along with her dog in broad daylight. I know it's not a gun issue, but she was murdered. She and her dog were both murdered in Los Angeles, right? So as you're reading the comments and the statements, more people were concerned about why the dog was murdered than why the woman was murdered, or who murdered the dog and who murdered the woman and what did they do about it. And it was like one of the
bystanders was watching the goings on, and he picked up a rock and hit the guy in the face with it and knocked him out to
to stop
keep them from going after anybody else. It's like that's some story there.
Right. So there was knives and rocks, but we need to make our guns all illegal. But okay. So telling this story though, I think we have lost our human empathy. And we've lost it to such an extent that during the break Rob was telling me a story about a jogger that had some kind of
in California, it was attacked by a large wild cat, and the
cat killed the woman.
Right, and then the police, the rangers, the forest rangers, park rangers, whatever, killed the cat, and they found out that the cat had 2 cubs, and the woman had 2 kids, and they both put on for these GoFundMe type thing, and the 2 kittens got more money than the woman's kids got out of the whole thing.
Right. I mean, and that's the thing is that we don't value human life, and these stories really show us how much people have issues. I just want to say people suck. So when we come back, we're going to talk. We're going to have more happy news. We'll see.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a Range Master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Had a dirty day? Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps, made from fresh goat's milk and organic oils that detoxify, clean, and restore moisture to skin, will get you ready for your next adventure. These unique soaps are handcrafted in the Blue Ridge Mountains and shipped to anywhere in the U.S. Visit SillyBillyGoatFarm.com for their full line of Grunt Goat Tactical Soaps. That's SillyBillyGoatFarm.com. Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough? Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit ProjectChildSafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
This is Dan Perkins with your songs and stories for soldiers, Veterans Tip of the Day. If you're a veteran with a disability, are you interested in a program that could give you a free home? Homes for Our Troops is a privately funded 501c3 nonprofit organization that builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post 9/11 veterans to enable them to rebuild their lives. These homes restore some of the freedom and independence our veterans sacrificed while defending our country and enable them to focus on their family and recovery. Since its inception in 2004, nearly 90 cents of every dollar has gone directly to the program to serve veterans. HFOT builds these homes where the veterans choose to live and continues its relationship with the veterans after the home delivery to assist them in rebuilding their lives. For more information, go to their website, www.hfotusa.org, and see if you can qualify for the home of your dreams. This has been your Songs and Stories for Soldiers, Veterans Tip of the Day.
Hey, folks. As you are going about your day and you're sitting in front of a computer, you're sitting with your cell phone in your hand, check out Car Arms, car.com, KAHR.com, and look at the line of guns that they build. I'm telling you, the concealed carry guns are pretty darned amazing.
Something to fit every stimulus check.
Every single one of them. I'm telling you, the thing I like about like the CW9 is just how slim of a gun it really is. So it's a larger gun, but it is a very slim package. So it allows you, well, it allows me, and I'm just a little chubby to conceal a gun in the same place that I've already kind of filled with a fat roll and a Twinkie. So I don't know. It is, but it does. It works for me. Car.com. So the video producer really wants a Desert Eagle, and I'm going for the Tommy gun. So, hey, the video producer is going to get an invite to go to the Rod of Iron Festival at the Tommy Gun Warehouse in October. So let me tell you, he'll have an opportunity to leave rust marks in drool all over the guns in the counter because
it'll be like it's engraved with the drool
with a drool mark. The Tommy Gun Warehouse Gun Store is a place that you want to spend. Well, we spend.
Just the name of it sounds good.
We
Tommy Gun Warehouse.
We warmed up the credit card pretty hard when we were there last. So we have been. If this show has a theme, it is that the ATF and the FBI and the Secret Service are not gun friendly.
If they were doing their job, we wouldn't need to be on the air telling about it.
No, they wouldn't.
We would free up my Sunday afternoon.
I'd be free to go back to sitting around eating bonbons or driving the taco truck, right?
Or bullets, whatever.
One of those. So the news has come out that the mass killer from Boulder, Colorado, was previously known by the FBI. They were monitoring him. So they monitored him.
The thing is, I'm a news junkie, so I read everything I can about all this stuff. It took me about 3 days to find out that he had used a Ruger AR-15 pistol instead of a rifle.
Okay.
That was the gun I keep saying that he bought 8 days earlier or something like this in a different city.
Right.
But it's like they keep saying assault rifle, but in reality it was an AR pistol that he had bought. And they're really not saying for sure 100% that was the gun he was using. They're just saying that
was the gun that he bought that many days earlier. Right. So so he was convicted of a misdemeanor assault against another student in his high school in 2018. And he he just doesn't sound like. Well, let's just say
they're
that
trying to blame it on the fact that Biden had bombed Syria earlier.
No, and then they said that he was bullied. So they were rolling out the whole thing
anything they can find to make it
to justify. There is no justification for murder. There's none. Absolutely none.
At first it came out it was racist, and then they found out that the guy was not white, and then it was it went to every different thing they could come out with. But like they say, it's illegal to murder someone. It's illegal to shoot your gun at the grocery store. There's a lot of things that there's laws already in place for it. And it doesn't. We need more laws. We need to do something to people like this so that the next guy doesn't look like it's so glamorous.
Yeah, there is that. And to all of you, what happens when there is a mass killing is that the news starts to talk about their name, and they start to talk about their history, and they start to talk about who they are, and they give them fame. So one, I'm never going to mention their name. I am never going to mention their name. But the other part is you need to stay strapped, have your gun, pants on, gun on, because copycats to be, oh, he got to be famous, I'll be famous. Look at how many different mass killings quoted how famous Columbine and the Columbine shooters were as to the reason why they made the attempt to do something similar. Copycats are a real thing.
When the House and Senate are talking about assault rifle bills and all this stuff now, everything seems like every story on the thing is about assault rifle, this and that, even if it has nothing to do with assault rifles. Here's one where one of the ladies that's on the TV,
one of the hosts of The View says that she feels like a hostage to Americans who own assault rifles. And so she does not feel safe in the country because there's assault rifles on the loose. Well, guess what, honey?
She
Move.
needs a therapist, I would think. I mean, there's a...
Yes.
It isn't like everybody brings them out on a leash and takes them for a walk every 20 minutes or something.
Right. So,
Yeah,
I mean...
if they did, we'd be a much safer country.
We would be. We really would be. I don't think we can any longer equate freedom with the unfettered right to own assault rifles. Well, there is no such thing, but okay. That is not freedom. I feel like a hostage right now. I feel like a hostage to the selfish people who insist on owning these types of weapons. That is not freedom in the country.
I'll tell you, when you see the little old lady at the grocery store who throws her pocketbook and her FAL in the cart and then goes in to get her ice cream, you got to feel much safer out there than most people.
Right. I know a couple of those. Wait, I'm headed to be one of those. I'm telling you. Wait, where's the age when you become the little old lady? Do I need orthopedic shoes to go with my with my pistol?
It's almost like they need to start putting rifle racks in the booth at the restaurant and stuff, so you have someplace to stack that thing instead of. I mean, you don't want it by the door because you want it in reach.
I just think that that restaurants ought to have smooth back chairs and not open ladder chairs.
Right.
Because when I stand up, my gun stands up and my chair stands up.
And now everything is all hooked
Right.
together.
So all of a sudden, hey, lady, you've got a chair stuck to your keister, right? Oh, I know. Let me just get it off
When
there.
you go into the booth where they got that little divider so you can let it down and talk to the guy on the next side over, they can just put a rifle rack there so that yours
It would be
leaned
all
up
nice.
against and his could lean against yours. And everything.
Right.
Everybody would get along so much better that way, too.
Right. And so DJ Play Nice says that Vice President Harris is all over this also. Yeah, I know it. It is truly scary. I mean, it really is scary. The political regimen that we are living with right now, both the president and the vice president, and their Second Amendment stances.
Well, if you look at all the bills that they're pushing through the House right now, none of them are friendly to the general American public.
Nope.
Everything is against what America has been for the last 240 years. So,
never mind.
Good luck with that.
It's an interesting. It is an absolutely interesting thing. So the thing is what are we doing? How do we do it? How do we take a stand? And the more that your state starts to do states' rights, I think this is what it's going to be.
I think some of it is we need to take an interest in politics. We haven't in years. And I think that when they take an oath of office, that actually should mean something. There should be some teeth in that. There's also things that if the Constitution and the 10 or whatever 17 Bills of Rights that are attached to it now or something, if you are actively trying to erode those, that's a treasonous act and should be dealt with as such. There's certain ways that has to be dealt with, and just by an executive order or something is not the correct way. And I think that is wrong. And we need to
Let's just go. Where's Durham? Right? I mean, there's so
I like
much.
the fact that Trump asked if he was still alive. Even I mean, it's nobody's seen the guy or nothing. It's like, what are they doing with this guy?
Right. No, here, let's look at this one. This story right here. So, is North Carolina, the headline says the mother of 6 is killed in a road rage shooting on I-95 South headed south in North Carolina.
But it doesn't really go into any details about that there was any kind of interaction between the two cars prior to this. It doesn't say anything. They were coming up to getting off at the ramp. The car next to him pulls up, winds the window down, and shoots 6 or 7 shots into the door of the car, and then takes off. And so it killed this woman that was in the passenger seat. And
right, so I don't know if this is bad reporting or if this is a bad headline. So the bad reporting is that there was some road rage altercation, that somebody cut somebody off, some perception, something prior to this. Or was this a random shooting? Or are we going to hear more where this has some other whatever going on?
Right, we're only hearing the end of this part of the story. We didn't hear anything about what led up to this or any of this. They do have a description of the car, but the description of the car is so vague it could be anything. So it's a non-story basically that they are.
Or it's going to become more of a story later. And so, yeah, so folks, stay tuned. We'll fill you in. If we hear more on that, we will fill you in on it. I've got another story that I want to talk about when we come back after the break.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to DavenportGuns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Seppacool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America. to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit ProjectChildSafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a Range Master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Folks, we are back. And so as we ended the last segment, we're talking about this story that we don't know a lot of what else is happening with. And I'm not
There's a lot of those stories.
I know, and I'm not gonna allude to anything with it, but in my head there's so many questions.
Is it bad reporting? Is it the fact that we just getting in on the tail of the story, or we're getting in at the beginning and no one has any facts?
I think
so. They should have hung out before they bothered to report.
No, but they're going to race the first one to the news. We're going to talk about it. And then it's correction. There's all that. But and then the other is that locally here in Ohio, we had a circumstance where somebody said something that was untrue, and then everybody ran with it, and then everybody had to retract it because it was the whisper game, and somebody said it, and so everybody we don't have reporters any longer.
The big thing we don't look at is that there's 330 million people in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
So at any given time, there's probably 185,000 black eyes going on, and we don't know who or why they got them. There's how many 2.7 million broken fingers. When you listen to all the stuff, it's like this guy got shot, this one got beat up, that one got his car stolen. It happens all over the place. We just don't get to hear about it.
We only get one piece or another piece or a singular.
I can show you
and they pick somebody out.
Like where people are shot with a rifle, and 247 of them in a year. That's such a small number; it's almost insignificant.
Except for to the 247 person.
247, but
right.
But because just by accident, more people than that were hit by a meteorite or something.
No, you're right. You're right.
A flying blue ice cube out of
the flying blue ice cube. We're not going to talk about. We all know what the blue ice cube is. We all know what the flying blue ice cube is, and I don't want to be hit with one. We'll just move on. So recently there was a story that came out that says the pastor's wife says that he was shot and killed by an intruder with the pastor's own gun. And so that was an interesting story. And then as it played out, they come to find out that it was really a threesome with the pastor, his wife, and another man. And they decided to instead make it a twosome. And so the pastor was the persona non grata, and so that was how that ended. And so there's kudos to the police and to the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation as they did this investigation and dug into what really happened, because police work is hard. And I personally don't believe that we give enough credit to police officers.
Look like it's just straight up. This is so easy. Went from here to here. We just draw that line. But you don't get to see the zigzag in the middle of it that regular people are doing all kinds of stupid things that.
Well, because we only get this part of the story, that part of the story, boom. And so that's one of the reasons why when something happens and then public sentiment says, hang them high or let them go or one of the other things and saying that
nobody knows what the real story is. And all of a sudden the Facebook's going crazy over something, but none of them have
Facebook,
any of the
Instagram,
facts.
Twitter, all of those.
They have no facts. They just, they only heard what
Right.
I guess the Reader's Digest
condensed version of here's a man who was killed by his oim gun. So that just
hit by a blue ice cube.
Well, it just reinforces that whole information about it's more dangerous to have a gun in your house because then you'll get killed with it. Well, no, it has more to do with the fact that you're the third leg in a stool stool and. Yeah.
You should have the gun and pay attention to your surroundings and all of that stuff.
Right, because if it was in your pants, you would have known exactly where it was.
Right. It's hard for somebody to shoot you with a gun that's in your own pants.
There you go. And you probably know if they're touching it. I'm just saying. You probably would know if they were trying to touch it. So, let's go to Pants On, Gun On, and why do you want to?
That's why you get a holster with that covers the trigger.
Right. Because if they're in your... Got it. Never mind. Stop. Head away from this. There we go. Okay. So a new story is we've heard that Uber, the Uber drivers and the Uber company has a policy, an anti-gun policy, so they do not want their drivers to be armed. And if a driver uses a gun in self-defense, the first thing that happens is that they are fired. So in Washington, D.C., 2 teenage girls, 13 and 15, who will remain nameless because they're juveniles, killed an Uber Eats driver because they were trying to carjack him and rob him. And so they killed Mohammed Anwar of Springfield, Virginia. He was a Pakistani immigrant and a father of 3 who came to America in 2014 to build a better life for himself and his kids, according to his family. And so these girls admitted to the police that she and her partner purposefully set out with at least one stun gun to steal the car on the day of the accident. But it wasn't a stun gun. But there you go. So let's see how they prosecute them. Are they going to prosecute them as kids? They're 13 and 15. Where's the line of being an adult? And when you take someone else's life, does that kick you up to automatically adult status? Because guess what? There is no going back from that.
But that's why some of the things with this, where do you become an adult? And they keep saying, you need to be 23 or 25 to buy a gun. Yet you can vote at 16 and you can do something else at 12. Where are they going to draw this line at? Right. And if you kill somebody at whatever age, what are they supposed to do with you for the rest of your days? It's not like you're over it and I'm not going to do it again.
Sorry, I didn't mean it. Yeah, on with his head after off with his head. I think that was a cartoon in the 70s, it doesn't work that way.
It's one thing if you accidentally killed somebody in say a car wreck or something, but if you went intentionally to rob them and with the gun and everything, then
commit a crime, it goes south and they die, you are responsible, you are culpable.
Right. So yep. Well, pay attention. Don't do that. Here's another guy, 75 years old, driving Meals on Wheels truck, and some teenager decided that they needed either money or his truck, whichever. 14 years old.
Yeah. So, okay, 13, 14, 15. And this one was a 14-year-old and a 15-year-old. So, our producer just put a note that says a quote from the Florida Carry event was that somebody is sticking their hands in Mike's pants, and it's sure not going to be me. I'm not sure that we're walking away from that. I don't know. I don't know the context. I don't know that I said it. Maybe I said it. Did I say that?
I don't know, but
who knows? That's the kind of stuff that
you say. That's the stuff that kind of comes.
That's the kind of stuff that comes flying out of my mouth. So it could have been me. I don't know. So I really don't know. I have a friend who remembers everything that they said, and they can go through a conversation and say, "You said this, and I said this, and you said this, and I said this," and I'm like,
I think they need a therapist too.
And I'm like, did we have a conversation?
Yeah.
That's where I'm at. I remember we talked about something.
And I say what?
What? Exactly. So folks, I mean, here's a Meals on Wheels driver that was shot. Here's an Uber Eats driver who was shot. Here's carjacking people that were shot.
Right, you see people on Facebook where they're standing at the gas station with their gun in one hand and the gas pump in the other.
There's a reason.
Pay attention to what's going on around you.
There is absolutely
not
a reason.
everybody plays by the same set of rules that you do.
Exactly.
You never know where the attack is coming from.
And there's so many people on Facebook Marketplace where you're inviting them to your house to come get your stuff and give you $10. You better pay attention to who they are and what your security plan is, because it's just not necessarily going to go good for you if you don't have a security plan.
Cheaper to throw that thing away than it is to deal with it.
Whose job is